Every capital city has a Chinatown, a Little Italy and a Greek quarter. But in Australia today, there are all types of cultural enclaves being established as migration increases. Tonight, we look at where the majority of our migrants are coming from, why they're coming here and where they're settling. Linda Kincaid reports on the new migration hotspots.
We're beginning to see now what I would call the Kiwi boom.
It's the best thing we've done.
They're the main factor that's driving Australia's population growth.
Keep it going. Loving it, eh? Loving it.
They call themselves Mozzies, Maori Aussies.
So there's 5 of us just moved into this new pad.
From across the Tasman, New Zealanders are making their way here en masse.
It's on like Donkey Kong.
The transition so common it's prompted a reality show depicting life for Kiwi immigrants living on the Gold Coast. Partly funded by the New Zealand government, the GC is already a massive hit in their homeland.
Interesting to see how all this goes.
I think it's the weather.
Yeah, the beaches and the weather and family lifestyle.
They don't exactly share the lifestyle of the reality stars, but Bevan and Michelle Reichardt and their 6-year-old daughter could not be happier with their decision to settle on the Gold Coast.
The recession hit really bad in New Zealand. And I was telling him, I said, you know what? Even if there's a recession in the Gold Coast, at least the sun's shining.
2 years ago, post the GFC, they packed up and took the plunge.
It's just a bigger place, a lot more opportunity.
Opportunity is the driving factor for most immigrants. Bob Burrell from the Centre for Population and Urban Research says unlike other immigrants, there are no major cultural hurdles for Kiwis.
They settle overwhelmingly in southeast Queensland, to a lesser extent Sydney, pretty much bypass Melbourne and Western Australia.
From 2010 to 2011, more than 25,000 Kiwis settled here. China followed with over 14,000, almost 11,000 arrived from the UK and over 10,000 from India. More than 5,000 people arrived from the Philippines, over 4,500 from South Africa. Vietnam, Sri Lanka, Iraq and Malaysia round out the top 10 countries immigrating to Oz.
Currently, most overseas migrants are settling in Sydney and Melbourne. That's why we've had such difficulty keeping up with infrastructure, and it's one of the reasons for the very high price of housing in these two cities.
Immigrants from Asia and the Middle East will traditionally flock to enclaves where communities are already established. In Sydney, the Chinese flock to Hurstville, the Indians to Parramatta. People from the Philippines move to Blacktown, those from Iraq to Liverpool. In Melbourne, Clayton is where the Chinese and Malaysian people have built their main community. A large portion of Sri Lankans settled in Glen Waverley. Indian, primarily students, settle in Hawthorn, and the majority of people from Vietnam move to St Albans. In Brisbane, Sunnybank Hills attracted most of the new Chinese immigrants. Hong Kong immigrants settled mostly in Runcorn. Indian immigrants moved to St Lucia, and a large number of New Zealanders settled in Forest Lake.
In Australia, the labour force wouldn't work if our little brothers from New Zealand weren't with us.
Some experts suggest the government's proposed population growth of 36 million by 2050 falls short of what we need. Brian Haratzis from Macroplan Australia suggests we need to double our current population to 40 million people.
We're in a situation in Australia where we will need to increase that number to maintain economic growth at around 3.5% per annum.
Added pressure on housing, infrastructure and jobs should be addressed by encouraging growth in regional areas.
We love it here. Never go back.